I'm not going to waste your time. This is not going to be the longest video ever, but I'm going to tell you exactly, if you're watching this in May or June 2025, I think this is the best way to find your product market fit. So if I had to launch a brand today and I had to make it work as fast as possible, this is exactly how I would do it, okay? This is the fastest way to product market fit watching this right now. If you're watching it in July, I have no clue what happened to AI or any at some point in the future. Right now is the time to do all of this, okay? So I'm going to break it down, right? So what I want you to do is use, for everything that we're going to base, right? Everything what I talk about is going to be based off of Google's new AI feature, VO3, which is the most insane video generation platform, like AI tool that I've ever seen in my entire life. And I don't want you to use it on UGC, because competing on UGC is dumb. It's like selling fidget spinners. It's like selling a super saturated product with the same marketing angle and no differentiator, okay? No point in doing that. I don't want you to do UGC anymore. Especially what I want you to focus on, I want you to focus on super unaware ads, super unaware audiences, and specifically on founder ads, podcast ads, street interviews, and the education style VSLs. And so I'm going to break these down, right? A founder ad is actually where someone sits in front of a camera or inside of a warehouse, like vlogging basically, and talking about why they launched the brand, some updates on the brand mission. Those ads work super well. However, also really high barrier to entry, because so far, if you really wanted to, you have to get a warehouse, right, to get these clips, right? Now everything's super hyper realistic with AI. Second thing, podcast ads. Once again, unbelievably high barrier to entry, because you had to have like a whole studio, or you had to pay some like actual podcast to talk about your stuff. Now it's just in 2 minutes you have a complete podcast, like a 20-minute podcast talking only about your product. Insane. Street interviews, you had to go out, you had to ask people, you had to probably pay some people to get the responses that you want. Absolutely incredible. And VSLs obviously too. So far you had to send the product to some doctor, you had to pay someone to dress like a doctor, pay for a bunch of B-roll clips. Now all of these things are possible to generate within 10 minutes with AI. And so specifically how I want you to do this is I want you to prompt VO3, right? When you get it, when you pay for it, prompt it with ChatGPT 4.5. So you're just going to go ahead and ChatGPT and tell it to write you a prompt. You're not going to prompt VO yourself. In fact, I don't want you to prompt any AI tools yourself. I want you to tell ChatGPT what you want, and tell it to make you a prompt for that specific AI tool. And then ChatGPT is going to write you a prompt of exactly what you want for VO3 optimized. And that's how you get the best output. So what you do first, right, in order to launch something, and see how I'm not talking about product research, because I think every product is sellable, right? I'm not going to waste your time with any bullshit on, winning products in May. It doesn't matter. It doesn't work like that, okay? So the very first thing that you're going to do is you're going to do whatever product you sell, you're going to put it into the ChatGPT deep research function. You're going to find out as much possible, as many pages worth of research as humanly possible. Also just so that you have an understanding of the audience, but more of like that you have the documents, that you have it written down of pages and pages in depth of, the beliefs that you have to change when marketing to those people, right? What types of quotes do they say when they whatever kind of experiencing the problems, what desires and problems do they experience in the first place? All of these things you figure out with doing it with the deep research function, because this is faster and more efficient than you could ever be with reading 5 Amazon reviews, okay? Second thing is competitor analysis. Now, this is something which you're going to do yourself, but also with AI, and I want you to specifically focus on the creative side of things. So you're going to check out the ads libraries, you're going to basically transcribe them, throw them all into AI, and just read them through yourself, but also let AI summarize them for you, especially the hooks, what types of ad concepts do you have, all that kind of stuff, what kinds of call to actions, everything you can imagine, right? Next thing is a differentiator, and this is probably the most important part, because if you don't have this, then everyone can just do this stuff. If you don't have something which is unique only to your brand, you're not going to make it work. And so this is the reason why people fail. Now, I like to take stuff to different countries. So if I were to launch a brand today, easiest way, I would just take something which works in the US, do this whole process, and just take it to Germany. Right, that's what I would do, and it has worked again and again. And so it's like you either take it to a different country, different market where it's never been targeted before, or competitors just a lot weaker, a lot fewer competitors overall, or you have like a unique mechanism, your product itself, right? You have a better product overall. Or you just have a completely different marketing angle. All these options you have to, be different. But what I want you to do, what I want you to focus on is I want you to have something which actually makes you totally different from everyone else, okay? So that's what you're going to do. Now, second step is, right, after you have all these documents, all these differentiators, like after you have the plan, how are you going to do this, you're going to basically write hooks on blank image ads, right? So this is a process called the hook testing. And so the very first campaign that you launch for a product is not the first creative test, but this like is level 0 creative test. What you're going to do is you're going to open up blank image ads with only text on them, and you're going to write down hooks. And so what you do is like you test them, optimized for purchase traffic, but obviously you're not looking for purchases here. You're just going to spend a couple dollars each hook, right? And you're going to see which ones have the best CTRs. And only then the outliers within these hook tests, you're going to then put on these video concepts here that we talked about, okay? So that's what you're going to do. I want you to focus, by the way, on these hooks when you're making these hooks on unaware stage. On the unaware stage, by the way, not just 7, make 50, 60, 100 hooks, right? As much, like the more the better. And yes, it's going to take money to test something like this, but yes, you should absolutely invest in, and this should be worth it to you, okay? So the thing is, you know, the more hooks you test, the better. And I want you to focus on your, like basically on your hooks, tailor them towards unaware people who don't even know that they have that specific problem that you solve. And that's where they perform the best. That's when they're the most scalable. And that's also for these concepts, which is the most kind of, like the most the best concept overall. Because for example, for a founder ad, right, obviously you want to speak to people who maybe don't know you yet at all, don't even know the problem that they have. But you just introduce yourself and you say, hey, I'm solving this problem. This is why I launched this brand, blah, blah, blah. So far, you had to actually, you know, rent a warehouse or whatever, actually have a warehouse and be there and film yourself. Now you can just do this in 2 minutes, which is insane, okay? So after you have the hooks done and you basically have a couple outliers, you're then going to generate the videos. And essentially, you're going to do the first creative test focusing on quantity over quality. So you're going to test all of these concepts, right? You're going to test a bunch of variations for each concept, a bunch of variations cycling through the best hooks, and testing a couple visual hooks each hook, right? So basically you're going to really double down on the hooks. Body and call to action for each of these can be the same. So let's say you make 10 founder ads, you can have the same body for all 10 but different hooks, okay? That's the point of it, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to look after the first creative test of what exactly performed the best and what didn't perform at all. And so likely what you're going to experience, what you're going to see is that the ROAS is not on point overall. Okay, so cool. That doesn't matter. You look at the ROAS of each ad, probably a little bit better, some of these, right? Then you look at, and obviously nothing's going to be super profitable, super scalable, and that's not the point. We're not trying to be profitable the first creative test. I don't know who exactly told you guys that you have to be profitable first creative test. Bullshit. You don't at all. Not even close to, okay? Now, what you want to do is you want to basically break down the ROAS here in terms of CPC and conversion rate, right? So you go one layer deeper and see what exactly made the ROAS fail, right? So now you have CPC, now you have conversion rate. So now you go one step deeper and say, okay, well, conversion rate was not on point. How to actually get the add to cart rate up, okay? Or is the add to cart rate even fine and the conversion rate was not good? CPC can obviously be broken down into CTR and CPM. And if the CTR is the problem, you can break it down into hook rate, 25% video views, 50%, 75, and the pitch rate. So how many people watched the last second of the ad? And all these things you can break down. And then what you do is next step is iterations. Okay. So iterations, what it is, essentially you test something, you look at the metrics, and then you retest deeper within something. So let's say you do this, right? You focus on quantity over quality, a bunch of volume, right? When in the first creative test. And you realize overall, all of your ads get you really good conversion rates, right? But they fail to give you cheap clicks. And so specifically, you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you figure out the hook rates are not good enough. So you're not having enough hooks. You don't get enough people into the top of funnel when it comes to the hooks. So now you know what to attack. And then you do that, and then you retest, and you retest, and you retest, and you retest. And to be fair, you can do that 10 times. So what I want you to do from the third creative test is you're going to do iterations. However, also test new concepts, new frameworks, new hooks, right? Everything. So essentially what you want to do is you want to do the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule means 80% of your creative tests, like the budget and the time that you have focused on iterations, and only 20 on new concepts, right? So that most of your spend actually goes towards making stuff better instead of just throwing something new at a wall and seeing what sticks. Okay. So this is the entire process of how you're going from 0 to a couple thousand a day to finding the product market fit. Obviously after that, it's super hard, right? I don't want you to think, okay, well, it's super easy to go after that to 10K days, 20K days. That's a completely different game, because anywhere from 2 to 3K a day, it's very individual. Every brand needs sort of like a very individual, different, approach to scale from there. But it's like before that, it's really every single time it's the same thing, right? You can scale every product to a couple grand a day. It's not really that crazy hard. And so the only thing which you got to just focus on, right? And this is the most powerful part, is using stuff like this. Like this new Google AI feature is still probably a lot of people are already using it, but like it's really not used at all in specific areas of the world, and specifically in e-com. And so I want you to now, that's why something I said before is like my favorite differentiator is taking stuff to different countries. For example, Germany, because here VO3 is not even available. Like in Austria, I live in Austria, and it's not even available here. So you have to have a VPN, some type of proxy structure that you can actually even buy it, and it's super expensive too. So it has a pretty high barrier to entry still in Europe. So that's why you should have, like, if you're in Europe right now, you should figure out how to properly use it. And the main takeaway from this video is to just kind of jump on these things quickly, to actually have a fast speed of implementation. And the only way you're going to actually execute this properly is if you today, from clicking off of this video, figure it out for yourself and launch something yourself. If not, then you've wasted these 11 minutes of your life. That was pretty much it for this video, guys. Super short, I know, but I hope you could learn a thing or two. I hope I could help you out. And so thank you so much for giving me your most important asset, which is your attention. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I wish you a fantastic day.